Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I sat at the dining table, staring at my untouched plate, listening to the chatter around me. Laughter, clinking silverware, and the hum of conversation filled the room, but all I could hear was the rush of blood in my ears. I had always hated these family dinners. Every time, it was the same. Her father would drone on about some business deal I had no interest in. Her mother would cast me polite but condescending glances, and her brothers, one a surgeon, the other a corporate lawyer, would take turns making passive-aggressive comments about my career, my hobbies, my life. And then there was her, my wife, Amanda. She had always played both sides, sweet and affectionate when we were alone, dismissive and detached when we were around her family. It was subtle at first, the way she'd cut me off mid-sentence or downplay my accomplishments. But over the years, it had grown worse. Tonight, it reached its peak. It started when her father turned to me with that smug, thin-lipped smile of his. "So, David, how's work going?" His voice carried the same disinterest it always did, but I answered anyway. "It's going well. I just landed a major project at the firm." "Oh, right. The marketing thing, right?" He waved a hand dismissively. "Yeah, Amanda was saying you work on internet stuff." I clenched my jaw. I had explained my job dozens of times. I wasn't some guy running a blog in his basement. I was an account director at a major firm, leading multi-million-dollar advertising campaigns. But to him, it was always internet stuff. I forced a smile. "Yes, digital advertising. We just signed a big client." And that's when Amanda laughed. Loud. Sharp. The kind of laugh that makes everyone turn their heads. "Oh, come on, Dad. Don't make him sound so important," she said, smirking as she took a sip of wine. "It's not like he's out there saving lives. It's just ads and stuff. He spends half his day looking at fonts and picking colors." Her brothers chuckled. Her mom smiled awkwardly. Her father outright laughed. I felt it, the heat in my chest, the slow tightening of my grip around my fork. She didn't stop. You should have seen him when we first started dating," she continued, eyes twinkling as she turned to her brother. "He tried so hard to impress me, talking about branding strategy like it was something sexy. I had to pretend to care, but Another laugh. Another slice into my dignity. The room spun. I wasn't just annoyed. I wasn't just angry. I was humiliated. In front of her entire family, she had just reduced me to a joke. And the worst part? They all played along. I looked at her, waiting, hoping to see a flicker of regret in her eyes. Some small sign that maybe she realized she had gone too far. But there was nothing. Just that smug smile. Like she had won something. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not in rage. Not in violence. But in clarity. I suddenly saw our relationship for what it really was. She didn't respect me. And maybe she never had. But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this was the last time I would sit at this table and endure it. I wouldn't break. She would. And when she finally realized what she had done, it would be too late. The drive home was suffocating. Amanda hummed softly beside me, scrolling through her phone as if the dinner had been perfectly normal. As if she hadn't just stripped away my dignity in front of her family. I kept my hands steady on the wheel, but my grip was white-knuckled. I could still hear them laughing. Her laughing. Mocking me like I was nothing. I had been quiet since we left, and she must have noticed because she finally glanced up from her screen. "Oh my God, David. Are you seriously mad?" She sighed, shaking her head. "It was just a joke." I didn't respond. "Don't be so sensitive," she added, her voice dipping into that familiar tone, condescending, dismissive. "It's not like I'm in it. You know how my family is." Yes, I did. I also knew that respect wasn't something they lacked. It was something they chose not to give me. And Amanda? She let them. No, she led them. I exhaled slowly, forcing my voice to stay calm. Controlled. "A joke," I repeated, eyes fixed on the road. "Yes." She rolled her eyes. "Seriously, David, you're overreacting. My dad and my brothers, they're real men. They don't cry when someone teases them. That's why they don't have problems keeping up with their wives." She laughed again. Like she didn't just gut me. Like she didn't just confirm what she really thought of me. My jaw clenched. I swallowed the rage rising up my throat. I had given everything to this woman. Years of my life. My time. My effort. My love. And now? Now she was casually implying that I wasn't man enough? That I wasn't worthy of her? I knew if I reacted now, it would play into her hands. She wanted me angry. She wanted to fight, wanted me to snap so she could twist it into, See? You always overreact. You're just insecure. No, I wouldn't give her that. I gripped the wheel tighter and simply said, okay. That was it. She scoffed. Oh my God, whatever. Then she turned back to her phone, scrolling through Instagram, probably already bored of the conversation. But I wasn't bored. I was done. That night, I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling. The house was dark, silent, but my mind was anything but. I thought about all the times she had done this before. Not always in front of others. Sometimes, it was just the two of us. Like when I got a promotion and she barely reacted, mumbling a half-hearted, "That's nice," before changing the subject. Or the time I surprised her with an expensive anniversary gift and she shrugged, saying, "I was kind of hoping for something better." Or the time I had tried to initiate intimacy, only for her to sigh dramatically, roll over, and say, "Can we not? I'm just not feeling it." You know, some guys would actually try harder. Some guys. That phrase haunted me for years. I had ignored the red flags, excused the jabs, convinced myself that things would get better. But tonight? Tonight was different. Tonight, I finally saw it all clearly. She didn't love me. Not really. She loved what I provided. She loved the comfort, the security, the lifestyle. But me? The man behind it? I was just an accessory. And that was when something inside me shifted. The next morning, I didn't wake her up with coffee like I usually did. I didn't kiss her forehead before heading to work. I didn't text her during the day to check in. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty about it. Amanda, of course, didn't notice. She carried on as if nothing had changed, too wrapped up in her own world to realize that the man she had been taking for granted was already slipping away. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to argue. I just needed to stop trying. And soon, she would realize what that meant. Soon, she would break. But by then, it would be too late. Something in me changed that night. I woke up the next morning and looked at Amanda like she was a stranger. Not a wife. Not a partner. Not even someone I cared about anymore. Just a woman who shared my space. And that realization felt freeing. For years, I had been holding up the weight of our marriage alone. Carrying it, repairing it, believing that if I tried hard enough, if I provided enough, if I loved her enough, she would see my worth. But I finally understood she never would. Because the problem wasn't me. It was her. And I wasn't going to waste another second proving myself to someone who never deserved me in the first place. It started small. Subtle things she wouldn't notice at first. I stopped texting her throughout the day. No more, "How's your morning?" or "Want me to grab you something on the way home?" I stopped doing the little things, bringing her coffee, remembering her favorite snacks, keeping track of her schedule when she forgot. I stopped initiating intimacy. No more back rubs, no more stolen kisses, no more reaching for her under the covers. I just stopped. And the best part? She didn't even notice. Not at first. She went about her days as if nothing was different. Because in her mind, I was always there. Always available. Always waiting. Until I wasn't. It took about a week before she sensed something was off. I was sitting on the couch after work, scrolling through my phone, when she came in from the kitchen. "You've been quiet lately." I shrugged. "Just been busy." She frowned, leaning against the counter. Did I do something? The irony. She mocked my manhood in front of her entire family, belittled me, laughed at me, and stripped away my dignity in front of people who should have respected me, and now, after a full week, she was just barely realizing I wasn't acting the same? I didn't argue. Didn't snap. I just gave her a half-hearted smile and went back to my phone. That silence? That lack of reaction? It bothered her more than if I had yelled. She shifted, arms crossing over her chest. "Are you mad at me?" I exhaled slowly, pretending to think about it. Then I simply said, "No." Not a single word more. No explanations. No long-winded conversations. Just no. Because the truth was, I wasn't mad anymore. I was indifferent. And nothing is more dangerous than a man who stops caring. The changes kept piling up. She noticed them, but she didn't know how to react. At first, she tried ignoring it, acting like things were normal. But then, she started testing me. One evening, she came home wearing a new dress, tight, flattering, something she knew I used to love. She twirled in front of me. "How do I look?" I glanced up briefly. "It's nice." Then I went back to my work. No lingering stare. No hungry gaze like before. Just disinterest. That made her shift uncomfortably. The next day, she tried another approach. She came up behind me while I was making coffee, wrapping her arms around my waist, something she hadn't done in months. What are you doing? I asked, not moving. Just hugging you, she murmured. I didn't hug her back. Instead, I gently unwrapped her arms and stepped away. She blinked. David. I simply grabbed my coffee and walked out. And that's when I felt it. The shift. The fear in her eyes. For the first time, she realized she was losing me. When women like Amanda start to lose control, they lash out. A few nights later, while I was working late, she stormed into my office. You're being an asshole, she snapped. I leaned back in my chair, unimpressed. Oh, you're acting like some moody, silent little boy, punishing me with your cold shoulder. Just say whatever's on your mind instead of being passive-aggressive. I smirked. Because the irony? I wasn't being passive-aggressive. I was just done. I shrugged. There's nothing to say. She scoffed, hands on her hips. Oh, give me a break, David. If this is about that stupid dinner, then get over it. It was a joke. My dad and brothers tease each other all the time. You're just... She stopped. Because I wasn't reacting. No anger. No yelling. No hurt. Just silence. I stood up, walked past her, and said 2 words before heading to bed. Good night. She tried everything after that. She started acting nicer. Asking about my day. Making my favorite meals. Even dressing up when I came home. But it wasn't real. It was desperation. She was scrambling to get back the man she took for granted. The worst part? If she had just treated me right from the start, if she had given me the respect I deserved, I would have given her everything. But now? She was about to lose everything. Because this wasn't a fight she could win. This was a war she had already lost. The shift had already begun. Amanda wasn't the same smug, dismissive woman who had mocked me in front of her family just weeks ago. No. Now she was watching me. Like a woman standing at the edge of a cliff, staring at the growing space beneath her feet. She could feel it now. The distance. The cold, undeniable certainty that I was slipping through her fingers. And she was terrified. One evening, after I had worked late for the 3rd night in a row, I came home to find Amanda in the living room, sitting on the couch in lingerie. A year ago, I would have dropped everything. A month ago, I would have at least acknowledged it. No? No. I just felt nothing. She stretched, arching her back slightly, watching for my reaction. I barely gave her a glance as I tossed my keys on the counter. Long day, I muttered. I'm heading to bed. Her jaw tightened. You're just going to ignore me? I turned, expression blank. Should I be paying attention? That hit her like a slap. Her mouth opened, but she had no words. Because for the first time ever, she was the one being dismissed. I left her there, sitting in silence, while I walked away. The next morning, I was sipping my coffee when I heard it. The sharp, agitated tone of Amanda on the phone. What do you mean my card was declined? She snapped. Run it again. No, there's no issue with the bank. She went silent. Then I heard the venom in her voice. Are you serious? A pause. Then, I'll handle it. She hung up and stormed into the kitchen. What did you do? She hissed, arms crossed. I calmly took another sip of coffee. What are you talking about? My card. The joint account. It's gone. I nodded. Yeah, I moved my money out. She stared at me, like she couldn't comprehend that I had just cut off her access. You what? She asked, voice shaking. I moved my money, I repeated, setting my cup down. You've got your own income, right? You don't need mine. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Because she knew. She knew exactly why I had done it. She wasn't my partner. She wasn't my wife. She was just a woman who shared my space. And now? Now, she would have to learn what that meant. That night, she tried one last test. She stormed into the bedroom, hands balled into fists. This is ridiculous, she snapped. You're acting like some bitter ex instead of my husband. I exhaled slowly, setting my book down. Husband. I mused, tilting my head. I didn't realize I was still one. She blinked. What? I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. A husband has a wife who respects him, I said, voice even. Not one who laughs at him in front of her family. Not one who talks about real men as if he isn't one. Not one who only realizes his value when he stops giving everything away for free. Her face drained of color. You're punishing me for a joke, she whispered. I chuckled. No, I'm just finally treating you the way you've treated me. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. I let it linger. Then I stood up and walked past her. Because I didn't need her to understand. I just needed her to feel it. And now? Now, she was drowning in it. Over the next week, she spiraled. She tried everything. Making my favorite meals. Sending flirty texts. Talking about working on our marriage. But I was done. I had already checked out. And she knew it. The final breaking point came when I found her sitting at the dining table one night, staring at her phone. She looked small. Not the arrogant, confident woman she had always been. No. Now, she looked like someone who had lost everything and was only now realizing it. I walked past her toward the fridge when she suddenly whispered, "Are you leaving me?" I paused. She looked up, eyes red-rimmed, hollow. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just sighed. And that sigh? That broke her. Because she finally understood. I was already gone. The night she finally asked, "Are you leaving me?" something inside her snapped. She thought she was untouchable, that I was permanent, that no matter what she did, I would always be there. But now, she could feel it. The weight of what she had done. The silence I left in my wake was heavier than any screaming match we'd ever had. And the best part? She did this to herself. The next morning, I found her already awake, sitting at the kitchen table. She had made breakfast. Not just toast or cereal. A full meal. The kind she used to make years ago. She looked up, eyes pleading. "I thought we could eat together," she murmured. "Like we used to." I looked at the plate, then at her. Then I grabbed a cup of coffee, ignored the food, and walked away. I could feel her stare burning into my back. But I didn't care. Because no meal, no apology, no desperate attempt at nostalgia could erase the years of disrespect. She had every chance to be a wife, to be my partner, to treat me like the man I was. But she chose to mock me instead. Now, she would have to live with that choice. Amanda always had control. She controlled how her family saw me, how her friends viewed our marriage, how I felt about myself. But now, she couldn't control anything. Her friends started noticing the change. One of them, Sarah, sent me a message out of nowhere. "Hey, just checking in. Amanda's been acting weird lately. She says you've been distant. Are you guys okay?" I didn't reply, but the fact that she was talking about it meant one thing. She was panicking. The perfect picture of our marriage that she had painted for everyone, it was cracking, and she had no idea how to stop it. One evening, I walked into the bedroom to grab something when I found her sitting on the bed. She was wearing one of my shirts, legs curled up, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. "David," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I miss us." I didn't say anything, because there was no us anymore. She wiped at her eyes. "Please don't do this. I know I messed up. I know I." She stopped, because for the first time in our entire marriage, she realized there was nothing left to say. No amount of crying or begging could undo what she had done. I didn't comfort her. I didn't reassure her. I just grabbed my things and walked out. The next week, I packed my bags. I didn't make a speech. I didn't give her a final argument. I just left. And that broke her more than any screaming match ever could. Because for the first time, Amanda knew what it felt like to be abandoned. To be treated like she was invisible. To be nothing. Just like she had made me feel. The last message she ever sent me was simple. "I hate myself for what I did. Please, just talk to me." I read it. Then I deleted it. Because I wasn't her safety net anymore. I wasn't her backup plan. I was free. And as I drove away, feeling lighter than I had in years, my phone buzzed with another message. From someone new. Someone who saw my worth. I smirked. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't look back.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.